Hi friends, Toto and I are back and we are so excited to share just a little bit about the book in case you are starting to open it and dive in. And so this is a devotional, which means the intent is to give readers just a little bit every day. So it's a 12-week devotion. And I came up with 12 weeks because 3 months is a really great amount of time to establish a new habit. And so we have 12 weeks of devotion. And so the format of the book and how it's broken up is each week has 5 stories, 5 devotions, and they're unique biblical stories. And so I like to say that the way I write, it's not only a devotion, it's kind of devotion with some meat, some biblical stories. And then at the bottom, you'll notice on some of the page, there's a dig deeper. And so what I'm hoping that the devotion does is kind of tease people and give them a little thirst to dig a little deeper, to open their Bibles, because the whole intent of this is to get people to love the Bible so they can grow closer to the Lord. So we have 5 days of devotions, and then on the 6th day, there's something called a recap, and it's in the format of the word step, S-T-E-P, and it really challenges readers to kind of look back and reflect on the week's devotions and then answer a few questions, some self-reflection. And so we have 12 weeks of that. And the 12 weeks are themed according to the walk on water story found in Matthew 14:22 through 33. It really is an incredible story, and I think a real microcosm of the Christian faith. So many of the topics are things that we hit in our lives every day. And the story starts with Jesus sending the disciples out. So send is our first word. You'll notice that each chapter or each week has one word, and it's the word that is representative of what the theme is that week. So the first week's themes are all about Jesus sending people out. The second week is when Jesus goes up to the mountain to pray. And so all of the devotions that week have to do with prayer. So the third week has to do with storms. And this was one of the most surprising things about the story of Jesus walking on water, is that Jesus sends them into a storm. And you think, why would Jesus do that? Well, there's a purpose, and we'll see it as the story unfolds. So that week is all about storms and how different biblical characters handled storms in life. Then we have Jesus seeking. He walks out to them on the water. And there's so many great stories of Jesus seeking people in the Bible. Then fear sets in when they see him. They think Jesus is a ghost when they see him walking on the water. So many great stories about fear. In fact, fear not is one of the most common phrases in the Bible. And then, of course, Jesus says, take courage, and says to Peter, come, Lord. Or Peter says, Lord, if it's you, tell me to come out on the water. And then, so that's courage, have courage. And then the next word, of course, is Jesus inviting Peter. Invite, and he just says with one word, come. So 5 stories about invitations, Jesus's invitations. Peter is obedient. He steps out of the boat in obedience. And 5 stories about obedience. And then he gets distracted. Week 9 is probably my favorite. My biggest challenge is focus. Peter gets distracted with the wind, and he gets fearful, and he goes down fast. But of course, Jesus is there for the rescue. Week 10. We have 5 stories about rescue, and then they are in Jesus's presence. When they climb into the boat, the wind dies down. When we're in the Lord's presence, there is peace. And so presence is our word. And then they all worship together and say, truly you are the Son of God. And that is week 12. We will end with worship. But the book doesn't end there. I actually, a few weeks ago, added an invite a friend section, just as Jesus invited Peter out of the boat. It's such a great opportunity to invite a friend. And so a few more questions for each of the weeks if anyone wants to invite a friend. And so that is a quick overview of the book. I would love to start to hear some of your comments and your thoughts. If you have any questions, please reach out. But I'm so excited to be on this journey, and thank you again for all of your support. To God be the glory. Bye-bye.